Nosferatu the undead, he who drinketh the blood of his victims and turns them as well into phantoms of the night. He is as a shadow and hath no reflection. At night he penetrates through walls and doors. In shape of a bat he wafts into the chambers of the sleeping. In shape of a black wolf he hunts down those who flee. Abandon all hope, ye whom he doth approach.
Welcome to Now Playing's Nosferatu Retrospective Series.
Makes men's bodies to quake and their teeth to chatter in their heads.
Hosted by Jacob.
I believe what I see with my own eyes.
Arnie.
I love the darkness and the shadows, where I can be alone with my thoughts.
And Stuart.
We are scientists engaged in the creation of memory.
This episode will contain detailed plot spoilers and strong language.
At midnight, all sorts of evil spirits are set loose.
We hope you enjoy the show.
If it has to be today, it has to be. I'm ready.
Today we're discussing Shadow of the Vampire, starring John Malkovich, Willem Dafoe, Cary Elwes, directed by E. Elias Merhinge. This is Arnie, co-host of Now Playing, and if it's not in the microphone, it doesn't exist.
And Stuart.
And this is Moonchaser, Blasphemer, Monkey, Now Playing co-host, Vaz of Prehistory. But you could call me Jacob.
So welcome back to the Nosferatu Retrospective Series, an episode we probably should have covered a year and a half ago or something like that, but we were really trying to squeeze some Dracula into the schedule, didn't have an extra week. We knew there would be time in the future to come back to this Nosferatu adjacent movie from the year 2000.
Yeah, we got a new one coming out. It's worth pointing out the trailer is out, looks pretty good. I'm super excited for the Christmas release of the new movie, also with Willem Dafoe, but yes, in a different kind of role. And this is a movie not in the Nosferatu universe, or maybe it is, debatable, but about the telling of the movie itself.
100% factual telling.
Yes. Max Schreck was a vampire. I'll be honest, I don't really know a whole lot about filmmaking at this time. Yes, I went to film school. Yes, we studied Murnau. Yes, I know that this movie is beloved for all kinds of reasons, including its use of shadows and cinematography and the performance of Max Schreck. But I don't know. Did everyone die on set?
It was a different time, you know, but Max Schreck actually did go on to do some other work after that. There's a lot of rumors about him coming out of nowhere, but he was a stage actor and he was seen after the film.
It's not a, this movie would have you believe that everybody just disappears into legend after they get the final shot. But it works for me because I don't know this story, and it existed at a time before everyone was talking about behind the scenes. Nowadays, we know what's going on behind every movie. But something that got shot 100 years ago, maybe they did have a vampire on set. I don't know.
And when I first heard of this film, I imagined something a little bit different. I heard about it from Roger Ebert. It must have been Ebert and Ropert by that time. But he talked about this film where, Willem Dafoe is a vampire in this old movie that maybe I had kind of heard of, but I had not seen yet at that time. So I didn't want to see this movie, even though it sounded really good. But like the next year, I happened to see Nosferatu, and I'm like, oh, I remember this movie. I got to go back and see that. And yeah, it almost sounds like it could be a slapstick, lots of jokes, about vampires sucking blood, and it ended up being much more drier and serious than I expected in my 20s going into it.
I saw it back in the day, and I know it by the reputation of its director. I think his name is E. Elias Merhinge. If I'm getting that wrong, so sorry. But he had sort of stumbled into the art film world with a silent movie of his own that seemed very inspired by Murnau's 1922 movie. It was this really weird, violent creation myth called Begotten. You guys ever hear of this?
I heard of it because of you, and I went and watched it. I guess it's really hard to find. There's a bunch of versions of it on YouTube. Don't listen to the one where some metal band put their own soundtrack to it. Not recommend for that. Maybe not recommend for the movie. It's very artsy.
It is. Again, I forgot that movies like that could get commercially released back in the 90s. What a time that you could make something so indulgent. And yeah, it played on art screens. I never got to see it until this viewing. Like, I knew we were coming back to Shadow of the Vampire. I wanted to see this work. I mean, it wouldn't be an obvious choice of get that guy for your next project. But I guess if you're talking about a movie that's celebrating darkness and silent film, he certainly does that. From what I can tell, at least the credits told me it's about the birth of God or something. I don't know. A lot of throats get slit.
Yeah, and someone crawls out of that dead god and jerks him off and then gets pregnant from that semen. It's weird.
It's almost indescribable. And I think some of it has been lost. My understanding is there was something about the projection process that was also unique that is not replicated by any home viewing that you could do. So again, artsy film, artsy guy. And yes, as his follow-up, he wants to tell the story of a artsy vampire movie from 1922.
Yeah, I'd never heard of this director before or since. I remember seeing trailers for Shadow of the Vampire back in 2000 and reading about it in entertainment magazines. I don't think it actually came to Springfield, Illinois. I would have gone and seen this in theaters. I was excited for it, especially given Malkovich and Dafoe. And I ended up seeing it when it came out on DVD in early 2001. It was probably a new release that I went to a video store and picked up off a shelf and took home and watched that way.
There you go.
That's what I did to see it.
I wonder, though, if you did it that way, if you believe the box art, I think you might think you're picking up a horror movie. Like, the weird thing is, Shadow of the Vampire, Dafoe always looks like a vampire. I don't know that you wouldn't know that you were coming home with a horror film. Like, this movie's a bit difficult to market because how would you tell somebody what it is, what it's about? I mean, I think the hook certainly was true for a lot of movies of the 90s and the 2000s. We just had a lot of films about filmmaking at that time. So this is just really, if you want to talk about creative process, this is another movie to talk about how crazy it is to try and direct a movie.
And that's a genre of film I really like. When we look at things like Bowfinger, Get Shorty,
Boogie Nights, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a type of film that I am drawn to. And because I'd seen trailers, I knew what I was in for with this. I didn't think I was getting a real vampire film.
Probably good. This also did get some bump in, awareness to the general public. It did receive an Oscar nomination. It did get Dafoe Best Supporting nomination. He did not win.
Oh, it was an acting one, not makeup. Okay.
It actually did get nominated for makeup also.
Oh, a nomination. Okay.
Yeah. And I want to point out, this movie was produced by Saturn Films. That is Nick Cage's shingle. He originally earmarked this for him. He wanted to play that part. I'm not exactly sure why he didn't end up. I mean, again, if you're making the movie, you get to call that shot. But for whatever reason, Dafoe got the part and got the acclaim.
What I read was just Dafoe had expressed interest in doing it, and Cage had worked with Dafoe in Wild at Heart, so he already knew him, and so he decided to step back and let Dafoe do this. And from what I also read, it was this role that got Dafoe Green Goblin. The people who were making Spider-Man saw this, and keep in mind, they made Green Goblin initially under a lot of latex makeup. They were going to go with that comic accurate look with the big yellow eyes. They weren't going to do the Power Rangers mask. And so I think they saw a guy who could perform under a lot of latex and give a evil performance and went, hey, we're going to typecast him as that.
Sure. But, just getting back to Cage, this is his acting style, right? If you watch movies from the silent era, the way that people tend to be hammy and overact.
We reviewed Vampire's Kiss.
Yeah, he has tried to make that contemporary. That style of shamanistic acting, I think, is how he labels himself.
Yes.
But it makes a whole lot of sense that he would draw such creative inspiration from Nosferatu specifically and acting work of that time, that he would want to study the ultimate method performance. I guess that's how I would sell this. This is so method that the lead actor is actually a vampire. But let's talk about it. Arnie, give them the plot. We'll get into Shadow of the Vampire.
The year is 1921, and John Malkovich is German film director Friedrich Wilhelm Murnau. He is leading the production of the movie Nosferatu, an unofficial adaptation of Bram Stoker's novel Dracula. Murnau is cagey with his cast and crew about the actor who is to play the lead role in the film, Max Schreck, played by Oscar-nominated Willem Dafoe. Schreck is described as a method actor who will only appear in full makeup and is to be referred to by his character's name, Count Orlok. The production goes to Czechoslovakia, where Schreck is waiting in the castle where the movie will be filmed. Once arriving, production starts to go awry. This is because Schreck is actually an immortal vampire, and, not satisfied with the bottled blood and ferrets he's been supplied, Schreck starts to feed on the crew of the film. This leads to tension between Schreck and Murnau, furthered by Schreck's refusal to film the boat scenes at sea. Murnau has to build a copy of the ship on land to accommodate the vampire. Eventually, production nears completion, and it's now filming on the island of Heligoland. Schreck starts to get greedy for his payment. See, Murnau has promised Schreck he could have the film's lead actress, Greta Schroeder, played by Catherine McCormack. Murnau starts to have second thoughts about this devil's deal, and so he teams up with the film's producer Albin Grau, played by Udo Kier, and cinematographer Fritz Wagner, played by Cary Elwes. The three try to expose Schreck to sunlight and kill him, but Schreck is waiting for them and kills Grau and Wagner. Murnau resumes filming the movie as Schreck goes to feed on Greta. Then the rest of the crew arrive, opening the door, and sunlight spills into the room. Schreck is killed while Murnau continues filming the movie's final scene, and credits roll.
As we get started, we got nice Art Deco credits. Sets the tone, 1920s. This just goes hand in hand. It was the artistic style of the era. So they're telling you, that just think back to a different time, a silent era, a time when film directing, those bastards won't shut up. There's no sound man, so they could just sit there and tell you your entire performance in a non-ending monologue.
What is with some of this art? It looks like a book cover, but on the book is a bunch of vaginas. I don't understand exactly what it is I'm looking at, but it definitely looked vaginal.
Well, go back and watch that art film that Stuart and I did. I think there might have been some vaginas in that as well. But these opening credits, 5+ minutes, and I'm like, okay, this is beautiful, like Art Deco work going on here. It's to remind me of those old, those classic cinema murals. But I watched I watched the film and listened to the director's commentary. And oh boy, did he have so much to say. Because I figured, I'm like, after the 3-minute mark, I'm sure there's some story being told through all these opening credits. And he goes off about, this is about evolution and art destroying old forms of art and creating new forms of art. And you can follow it through this whole story. He's very passionate on that commentary. It was a fun commentary to listen to. But yes, we can talk about this film. It is about, one of the opening jokes is the lead actress, Greta, not wanting to do films because the stage is better. And that's not true today. So yes, he has a lot of destroying things to create new things. And that's all in that mural, apparently.
And again, go back to Begotten and whatever it means, it definitely is about life springing forth through death. Those are heavy themes, symbolic, interpret at your will. These opening credits kind of do feel Rorschach bloodish. So if you see vaginas, Arnie, I think they're vaginas. I do think creation and sexual imagery and violence. There's also, killing swordsmen, and some pale naked guy is being trampled here. So I think there is a story being told here. Even if it's not linear, you get the themes that are important to this director and to this movie.
And you talk about this director who won't shut up because it's a silent film, he could talk. Apparently, this director did that during Begotten as well, and apparently this is how they did it in some silent films. The directors would just kind of give direction to lead them, and, they're wearing these lab coats and goggles, and that's because they never explained it in the film, but I figured that's got to be based on something. But yes, because the lights are toxic with their fumes, and you would actually have to protect yourself like this. So he is bringing a lot of that old, cinema knowledge that we ignore now because we don't have, mercury lights frying our clothes and our brains.
Well, for one thing, I definitely think it was a time where the director is everything, right? He is dictating to everyone and can, because again, there's no sound equipment to pick up what he's saying and ruin the shot. So he is just at free reign to run off the mouth, and they're starting filming a scene early on. The Mina character, I guess her name is Emma in the original Nosferatu, is there playing with her cat. I think it's telling, Arnie, the first words are nice pussy.
Yes.
And if you see vaginas, there are vaginas.
Yeah, I definitely thought that was interesting. And the first shot, we see a close-up of an eye and then the lens of a camera. And we're going to be seeing this film much through the point of view of John Malkovich. You know, I think that Willem Dafoe gets all the glory for this. He got the Oscar nomination. But the lead actor here is John Malkovich.
Yeah, and I think he is the monster. I mean, I truly believe this is a story maybe about two monsters, but one that vanquishes another. So he's the victorious monster. In many ways, this opening is setting up what he is about. We had an intertitle that basically said Murnau created the most realistic vampire film ever made, establishes himself as the greatest director of all time, la-di-da. Yes, but what we're really seeing here is a man using a new device to take the life of a woman. And that killing her, the female form, is the act of creation destruction, Jacob, that I think you're referring to. Throughout this movie, we will find out that everything is hinging on the fact that this director knows full well his leading lady is bait for his star. And yeah, she doesn't want to do this because, yeah, when you're on stage, nobody is going to be monologuing and telling you what to do every step of the way. You get to create the performance you want to give, and you have an audience that is live and witnessing you. It feels, I think she says something to the fact is, this gives me life. Your camera takes my life. And I think that metaphor is appropriate.
I mean, it's hardly metaphor by the end of this.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. It's less metaphor and more foreshadowing than anything else. But we're introduced here to the crew of the film. We've got some notable character actors here. Udo Kier has a strong supporting role as Albin Grau. He's the producer of the film.
Always love Udo. I mean, again, it helps that he's in almost all the Lars von Trier movies. I'm a big fan of Lars von Trier. But yeah, he's just done so much, and he always pops up just doing weird things, and I always applaud him for it. So a delight. They've toned him down. I wanted to say that, historically speaking, the producer of this movie that he's playing was an occultist, was in some kind of satanic order. And, you would think that he would be a part about bringing in a real vampire, but they kind of played this character as someone on the outside, someone that doesn't really understand what Murnau is doing, but is giving him the money to do it anyway.
I mean, he's totally not in the know. He's asking size, how are you doing the makeup? Like, he wants to get all the measurements and everything, and he's like, nope, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Again, this is a movie that says director is everything. Crew expendable. Yeah, you could all just be fed to the beast, and I am the creator. That is what I feel like the statement being made in this movie. But not true. Again, Albin very much was a big reason why a vampire movie got made. And keep in mind, after World War I, Germany was really struggling. They were hoping to take on Hollywood. They thought that throwing a lot of money into film production could give them an edge that would help bring Germany out of its depression. Instead, it was Hitler.
And what's set up here at the very beginning is that they're about to go to Czechoslovakia to film this, and the crew is asking about the actor who will play Count Orlok. What is the size for his costumes? What will the makeup be? And Murnau really isn't saying anything. It's left to the lead actor who's playing Thomas Hutter that's going to be gossiping, saying that they're getting some strange character actor.
And we know this character, or at least I do. Eddie Izzard, right? I mean,
yeah.
a famous British comedian, drag performer.
I mean, that was the biggest surprise, is he was dressed as a man in this one.
Yeah, right.
She was dressed as a man. She
goes by she now?
Yeah, she goes by Susie Izzard and is a she.
Oh,
had no idea.
Okay, hadn't caught up with the latest. And I really just want to say Izzard is so good at capturing this I mean, he's awful, right? The acting is awful, and he's so much fun in this little moment where he's doing his bit in the mirror, and you're just like, oh, what a ham. And throughout this movie, you can see everyone kind of rolling their eyes at his style of acting.
Again, I thought this was going to be more of a comedy. It just seems like Nick Cage producing, if he was starring in this, it may have been a comedy. But it's very subtle in the way it goes about its humor. But yeah, I appreciate Izzard's performance here. It's because he's having fun with it. Just those overacting, like you said, of the silent era. He just really captures that well.
Yeah, I think Izzard is definitely a ham in this and used for great comedic relief. The one thing I just want to express about this film, and I think it comes from the very beginning, is it has a very dry sense of humor that goes through it. You know, I call this a comedy. When I looked it up, it was listed as like a drama horror film. And I'm like, I think you're overselling the seriousness of this. I think there's definitely a lightheartedness to it, and Izzard is where we're first introduced to that, is just this gauche, over-the-top actor.
I'll split the difference. To me, this is satire, which satire is maybe to take something that is serious or self-serious and also have a little fun with it. I think that this movie is very deadly serious about its messaging about the pursuit of art. I think Murnau is very much committed to killing everyone, to capturing darkness. He is the antithesis of a vampire, you know, the master of shadow and darkness versus the master of light, the one that is going to utilize light and camera techniques to expose the very darkness. And I do think they mean that. This director is committed to that as a message. And all you got to do is watch Begotten to know how serious he is about symbolism. But there is a tongue-in-cheek, and I do think it comes a lot of times with the supporting players. The way that they will react to the pretensions gives us permission to laugh. But one thing I think that it's noting, you're talking about the fact that they're all headed to Czechoslovakia, and I laugh because I think it was somebody on the production, the costume girl, is like, is it supposed to be Transylvania? They don't have the rights. They want to have the right.
And they call it out.
Yes. If it were a straight translation of Dracula, then yeah, we'd be going to Transylvania, but gotta be Czechoslovakia with Count Orlok. And I think it starts this theme that runs throughout the movie, again, that is deadly serious sometimes, and then comedic in moments like this, about authenticity. How much can we be taken seriously? How real can we make it? The intertitle says this is the most realistic vampire movie. And obviously, they dramatize that by saying that Murnau's going to use a real vampire. And this is the last day of shooting on a soundstage. You know, he's relieved as they're turning off the lights of everything. He calls it the end of artifice. They can now leave this soundstage, hop on a train, and begin the real work that he's trying to do, which is to find authentic realness out in the world and capture it.
Yeah, it's a great hook into this movie. I don't think that this movie spends a whole lot of time with setup. The opening credits may roll a little long, but once we're introduced to this crew, I think that it has good pacing, and we're in Czechoslovakia pretty quick.
It's a kind of a short movie. I was surprised. My memory is movies like this tend to be 2 hours. But if you cut out those very long credits at the beginning, yeah, you'd have like 80, 75 minutes.
Under 90, for sure.
Yeah. And Begotten also was under, I think 70 minutes.
It's about 70 minutes, yes.
I don't think this director thinks in terms of epic. Maybe in its imagery.
And so, yeah, we get to Czechoslovakia pretty quick, and there's a little bit of mood setting up as we get into the city. We find a wine jug full of what looks like blood, and pretty soon we get our first glimpse of Shrek. We're not going to see his face, but somebody's going to deliver a ferret, and we get these shots of his hands with those really long fingernails. A great recreation of the makeup from that old Nosferatu film. I mean, they have done an incredible recreation here as Orlok goes to presumably eat a ferret.
Yeah, it's teased out. I mean, this is coming in about the 20-minute mark. And I think, given how long it takes for Dafoe to show up, and you know he's coming because he's so much a part of the advertising, again, the video box, anything you would have heard about, the Oscar nomination is his Oscar nomination. But they make you wait for it. And I do like the anticipation, the build-up, that he is, again, this is really about Murnau. It is really about his process to try and create an authentic movie about darkness, to expose real evils. And I mean, again, you can laugh at him that cars are a new invention. They only have 2 in this entire region. And he's driving in the swanky car and pulling up and complaining about how hard it is, while everyone else is like in a horse and carriage dragging the equipment for him. So what a diva.
I'm not positive. I didn't notice this, but according to IMDb trivia, that scene of the carriage is actually from Nosferatu. That they were able to use some footage from Nosferatu as if it were actually footage from this movie.
Yeah, throughout this film, they'll have actual frames from the original silent movie.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that. They actually have all the technicians and locals dragging their stuff in carriages to the place they're going to film. But they are doing that trick, Arnie. Everything that happens in the movie is something that also happens to the production. And it starts here with the idea of horse and carriage and superstitious locals getting involved.
I do love, like, you know, you're filming a movie. You can't have the set too cluttered. You got to take some crosses down. And those villagers get super upset. Like, get those crosses back on the wall. Little details like that are real fun.
Yeah. And also true. I did go back. I don't know if you guys, it's been a while since we've reviewed Nosferatu, but I did go back and watch it just to see how close they captured it. It's not letter perfect. If you held it up side by side, you would see that they are different locations. Not always is the set exactly precise. This is, after all, a low-budget indie film. They can't completely replicate the past, but it is very much capturing the spirit of what was happening in the movie behind the scenes.
Though this director, like, he really went all in. He reminds me a lot of Robert Eggers, who's doing the upcoming Nosferatu film, where they really go for this authenticity, because he was saying whenever they are showing, you know, they're filming scenes and they'll cut to that, like, grainy black and white sepia toned footage, they would take the audio and record it onto wax cylinders. And then use that wax cylinder recording for the actual movie audio, so it would sound grainy and old, just to, again, get you to more into that old mindset.
Again, I think this director is known for these kinds of techniques, and I think something has been lost, that we're not sitting in a movie theater and watching it project film strips through light onto a wall, because this was shot in a very grainy film stock. I don't know if you've noticed how much grain and how difficulty it has sometimes.
I thought it was just because it was a DVD, because this never even got a Blu-ray release.
I couldn't tell if it was digital noise or if it was film grain, but I definitely noticed something to the picture.
It's film grain, and again, it would be lovely to watch this projected. I had that experience once back in the year 2000, and apparently never again. So, yeah, watching it now, it's very clear that just an element of the technical is missing that the director wanted us to experience by having it now as a digital artifact we're playing on a disc. But I don't think it's a mistake that he goes after the cameraman. I do think the camera is the weapon. It was the first image we see. It is the thing that Murnau is using to expose evil and darkness. You know, it requires light, so you have to bring sunlight to it. Back in those days, portable lights weren't always a thing. You usually had to work with natural light. So sunlight is really important here. It makes sense that, yes, we don't see the attacks, but this cameraman is suffering, and that's because he is the one wielding the weapon.
And this is on the first night of the entire crew meeting, I don't know, Max Schreck, Count Orlok, whatever his real name is. And I gotta say, that entrance, again, it's all in shadows. You barely even see him. And wow, it's like, I feel like that really captures the spirit of that silent film, which was so expertly done in shadow and that. And there's just something so, like, you've had this anticipation. Who is this actor that's supposedly like from the Russian theater coming to do this performance? And you barely even get a glimpse of him. And then, yeah, you like cut and the cameraman's on the ground.
He is amazing. Dafoe is so deserving of all the accolades. I love Dafoe. He usually is fun. He's good for it. And God knows Cage would have been fun in this part too. But there's just something letter perfect about watching Dafoe emerge identically to the way Max Schreck did in the movie around the same time. And it really just, I don't know, there's just something postmodernly perfect about seeing him play this part and having everyone in the crew actually be a little intimidated that this is who they're working with, that this diva who will only shoot at night and doesn't get makeup, doesn't get fitted for costumes, just appears like this and then disappears, is a great setup.
And you talk about this could have been Nicolas Cage's role, and I wonder if Cage would have hammed it up. You know, this would have been post-Face-Off Cage, post-Con Air Cage, and Cage just might have given such a big performance here, whereas I think Dafoe, he is quietly menacing. You know, he does so much with just his body language. He doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue, especially in these early scenes. It's all glances. It's all facial expressions. And he's able to completely emote underneath this heavy makeup where it hardly looks like him. Some shots I see him and I'm like, oh, there's Dafoe. But a lot of times I'm like, there's Max Schreck. And it is just an incredible performance.
Yeah, one that is killing the cameraman. That his very appearance seems to be the thing that's sucking the life out of the guy that's supposed to run this camera. For reasons, after they get the shot, they find Wolfgang lying on the ground, shaking, returning him to the inn. He'll eventually be shepherded out of the picture. They will need a new cameraman. I don't know, again, historically speaking, I think that there are 2 cinematographers credited for this film, but I don't know why that would be. And it's just kind of fun to speculate that it's because the vampire sucked the life out of one.
It's because they used a real vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does say that there were 2 cinematographers, one of whom was uncredited on the old film. So they did their research back in the days before Wikipedia could just give those answers.
Yeah, it's fun to fill in details. I mean, there's lots of things that, again, they could have told the story of this movie without the flourish of the supernatural. It wouldn't be nearly as fun. I like the idea that an actual vampire is the danger on set for them. And we're learning about the bargain as they're about to film the scene where Harker, or in the German version, Hutter, is getting the real estate deal with Orlok. This is about the time that we learn that director is selling out leading lady for vampire services.
I do love how he, references her bosom, which that's not in the film. It's her throat that he likes. And they're like, that word is so scandalous, but I guess that is the magic of the silent era. You can make the words whatever you want. But I like this evolution, the subtle evolution that happens throughout, as we go from scene to scene with Dafoe. His character, he gets more and more of an ego. And the director did reference Marlon Brando, when we get to some of these demands with the boat. But this is his second scene. And he's like, I want makeup now. And the director's got to deny him makeup. And I just see that as his ego just slowly building.
Yeah. No, I definitely feel like the battle is for me is that when you're a film director and whether it's you're a film student running out there with a Super 8 camera or Murnau, the most famous German director that they have, you are trying to corral the chaos of the world. He's gone beyond the confines of what he can control, which is on the soundstage where he can monologue and dictate everything. And now he thinks he can do that out in the real world to a real vampire. He is definitely going to get some pushback. And that is the fun of this movie. It starts here with, I want makeup. No makeup. And sadness. I mean, I think that's one thing. I'm sure Cage could have done it, but one thing that Dafoe expertly brings to this, not only am I laughing at how well he's replicating the moves, but almost instantly we get the idea of he's trying to film this scene and the screenwriter's off camera, shouting for him to get into character. What inspires the most longing in you is the question he posed. He says the light of the sun. So again, that they need each other. The way that I see this is a creature of darkness that needs the spotlight that only sun can illuminate, and a director, in order to be authentic, who must expose darkness. It is the battle of the wills that is going on.
And I like that they're touching on, like, what does the vampire want? Because that is, I will say it, what is moving about Nosferatu, that gothic romance and the pining he has. And that was one of my questions coming back to this. I mean, I remember liking it, but I didn't remember it beat for beat. And so one of my questions was, are they going to actually address that this is a vampire? And what does Nosferatu want? Because that is actually one of the moving things about these Dracula stories, is this pining. And so I'm glad early on, like, we're going to get a lot more scenes about that, but they are addressing those things. Like, this isn't just a satire about filmmaking, but if you like vampire films, like, there's definitely vampire thoughts going on throughout this film.
His lust is defining everything. Inside the movie, Orlok sees the locket and says, I want Ellen. And outside in the movie, we have Max Schreck seeing the locket and saying, I want Greta. And that is the deal that has been made. When this contract is being signed, we don't know exactly this yet, but the director has more or less signed off on the fact that at the end of this shoot, I'll feed my leading lady to you, but you have to do what I want until then.
But we don't know that at this stage. It's kind of kept for a third act reveal exactly what Schreck is getting out of this.
Right. But in the idea of them signing the contract and the way he's looking at Greta, the way that he says at one point, he calls it a lovemaking game. You believe them when they happen, but they always stop short of anyone being seriously hurt, which makes you wonder, what is Murnau's sex life like? They kind of limit that. I do know that he was a bit of a philanderer. He did sort of have a debaucherous life. We only had one scene of him running off to a cabaret and shooting up heroin, but I'm wondering if it would have been helpful to know he was homosexual at a time when that was, pretty controversial.
Well, there's a line right before they cut to that cabaret, is like, oh, is he with a woman or a man? And yeah. I felt like, it was real ambiguous. I felt like he went to a sex club and did heroin. He's probably got with both.
I think if you want to contrast the dark sexual nature of a vampire with the dark sexual nature of the director, you'd probably want to explore that a little bit more. But I do remember that was dicey in commercial films in the turn of the century. They didn't always show that. So it got minimized, and maybe to the movie's detriment.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird line, I thought, the way it was brought in. And I don't think they really are going to focus much on Murnau other than his obsessiveness with being the creator, with being in charge of this film. I'm not sure that being a philanderer, be it gay or straight, really would change his character very much or deepen it. What I like about him is his single-minded obsessiveness with the film.
It's the appetites. The flesh, the blood, that they both crave that so much. That capturing on film with light is the same thing as sucking the blood out of someone. And that's what he told Greta, is that why would you mess with theater? I can make you immortal. You do a movie like this, and this is what makes your career. You can do 1,000 plays and, all those people die. You'll die. But this is the forever. And Schreck represents that forever. He represents that immortal. And again, the sadness of that. And the comedy. At one point, he's like, I used to drink from golden chalices, and now I feed like old men pee. Sometimes all at once, sometimes drop by drop. Yeah, it's a great performance. Again, funny and sad at the same time.
Yeah, I definitely find myself smirking at a lot of the lines and just a lot of the setup here. And, when we do get the scene after the cameraman has fallen down, where Schreck is like, you don't need the script, girl. He's
yes,
having the argument over which crew members could be fed right now versus which ones do you need. I thought those were amusing segments.
I think my favorite scene, it's when they're doing that dinner scene and they're asking him what he thinks of that script. And he's like, it's so sad. He has no servants. And like, at first it's funny, but you go through that monologue he gives about being a king and having armies, and now he's got to try to remember how to buy cheese and wine. It is such a heartbreaking vampire monologue. Like, I love it.
And not only that, but he's really talking about working for Murnau. Like, he's talking about the scene specifically. What Shrek, the actor, is saying about Dracula is it's so sad that he hasn't eaten in centuries, but he's got to feed this real estate agent that just blew into his castle. And that's also true between them. We will find out that Dafoe, he is not the ladies' man Dracula, right? Like, there has been no women. He is like chewing on bats that happen to fly by. He is not getting laid in the way that we think of vampires getting it on. He is a sad old man that almost has Alzheimer's. He can't remember who turned him. He can't remember the face of the woman that he fell in love with. And so I really feel like, yes, he feels like someone that hasn't eaten in centuries, and now I've got to feed this asshole director who is trying to stick me in front of the light.
Yeah, I love that scene as well, where I think this is the Oscar reel. You know, you give Dafoe a chance to monologue about being ageless and not being able to remember what happened and why he's forgotten the ability to make new vampires and all of that. I think this is really the standout dramatic scene for Dafoe. It also references what I'd read about being a cut subplot from this film. Shrek mentions being turned by a woman, and there was a plot that that woman was going to be with Murnau and told Murnau to go get Shrek. And so the person who made Shrek was also making him as an actor.
Interesting. Well, there's no evidence of that here now. The way it sounds like they found each other was that Murnau was on location shooting. Back when he believed he was making Dracula, he actually went to Dracula's castle and found this guy. So that was how they met. But it would have been interesting to see if he could have, because the whole thing is sort of a honey trap. If he could have actually used the woman that turned, that is the classic thing. The woman in that Dracula loved for so long ago in the painting is now in front of him now. It would have been a fun thing to play with if they had worked it out, but don't need it. Doesn't change the relationship that I'm enjoying, which is that of director and star, which is always the thing you appreciate when you're watching movies about movies and how many things go wrong on set, as watching the director scramble, trying to stay in control as things go further off the rails. And yes, his leading actor at one point is going to proudly say, "Not your picture anymore. You want darkness? Now I'm the star and you take orders from me." He's lost the cameraman. That's one thing that becomes evident by this point. The generator blows, and when they get the power back on, I think the vampire is like literally drinking from his neck at that point.
Yeah, that was kind of a fun scene there that the cast kind of ignores seeing that.
Yeah, whatever. He's just, again, think about actors. They're weird. All the stories you hear about, people being method and the things they require, only purple jelly beans in my trailer kind of stuff. So yeah, if you have to chew on people, I guess that's his thing.
And also you hear about like awful things that happen in Hollywood. Everyone knew it was going on. No one said anything. And here's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, there we go. That's really the metaphor that works, is that we tolerate the intolerable because look at this performance. Everyone can tell they really are capturing something. And again, I'm going to cite that. The best vampire I've ever seen on film remains Max Schreck in the 1922 film. I think that's true.
But they do bring in a new cameraman, Cary Elwes, and he is going to be quite the showboat cameraman. Fritz Wagner comes in and he's like, well, I don't like working with this lens, but I guess it will have to do, and I can do all these various camera movements. And Udo Kier is just going to come up and be like, not on this film. You're just going to point the camera and shoot it.
Too expensive.
Yeah, he wishes he did a shot in slow-mo, and you can tell he's reckless. He's shooting that gun to get real reactions from these villagers.
But, it's true. If you go back and watch Nosferatu, there are so many tricks. We talked about all the different processing shots, and, they're not shocking to modern audiences, but stop motion and just day for night kind of photography. Murnau was really pioneering something, and this is the guy. The other guy wasn't equipped. He didn't have the heart, the strength to face the subject matter. But this guy, he is a true adventurer. Just the way he comes flying in on a World War I plane, you just know that this guy is up for it. And that he's already going to brothels and he knows Greta from back in the day.
I gotta say, it was a little weird hearing Cary Elwes do a German accent. It always caught me off guard every time he had a speaking line.
Yeah, and For me, I was shocked when this movie came out to see Cary Elwes in such a small supporting role. I think of him as more of a star, Twisters notwithstanding.
Don't. He really wasn't. Yeah. Princess Bride was 1987. This is 13 years later. He's well beyond his sell-by date.
But yeah, we get a bit of a lull here because Murnau had to go back to Germany to tell the finance guys everything's going to be okay. We've had some delays. And that's when Fritz shows up and we get that good speech from Shrek. But then Murnau does come back and we start filming again and Shrek's ego grows even bigger.
Well, part of it is that Greta is on set now. And that's, how do we keep him away from that? She shows up. She's, total diva. She's got little toy Pekingese dogs she's carrying around here. And yeah, I think that this vampire is ready for her close up now. And Murnau keeps having to scream, I will finish my picture. You will not have her. Again, this is really where we understand the deal that he's made here. I am fine with you killing my crew, but not before I get my movie.
Though we find out Shrek's gonna discover this trap door thing so they could get him with Sun. Was Malkovich planning on trying to save her at the end?
Well, I just want to reflect on the fact that, again, a lot of movies of this time period had devices in their sound stages. The Black Maria, that was how they lit. They didn't have camera. They didn't have electricity. They opened it up and the sun came in and that was how they lit the scene. So you could make the case that that was just what was necessary for the final scene, which is about sunlight coming in. But yes, I do think that Murnau, in his quest for authenticity, is authentically planning on vanquishing this vampire after he is done. I want to see it, and then I want to kill it with my camera. And so we're getting, a lot of it is about the stress of how do we get to that final moment. We all know the scene in the climax of the film, and I guess it's filming on an island. I didn't know this. Maybe they made that part up. It requires traveling over water, and there's this whole diva battle about, I will not get on your boats. Well, they'll have no close-ups. I can fly there, again, all of the standoffs between Malkovich and Dafoe are priceless. They are the comedy.
I love that they load his casket up on a plane and fly it over.
Yes, yeah. And Murnau's the one that flies that plane. He is actually, again, all right, I'll be the one to do this. And that was a funny thing about Nosferatu 1922, was when you see the vampire carrying his own casket around. They use that prop comedy again. This movie is very studied in its source material and working it into the drama behind the story very well, I think. I really do like the interplay between story being told and story of the telling. But one of the things we talk about Nosferatu that I just want to bring up is that, one of the uncomfortable subtexts about that film is that you could read it very much as anti-Jewish, supporting Nazi propaganda, the idea that immigration is the pestilence. I notice when they come to get to Murnau, he's strung out in his room on heroin at one point. Did you notice there's all these glyphs on the wall?
Oh, yeah.
Some of them are swastikas. I wondered why that decision was made and whether they were trying to infer something.
Yeah, the director actually spoke to this because I noticed that. I'm like, that kind of looks like a swastika there. Is that what that's supposed to be? And it definitely is because, yeah, he mentioned that is what's coming after this film are the Nazis, not any Academy Awards, but Nazis. And it was yet another example of old symbols that are smashed and made anew, just in an evil way this time. So
right.
That is his big thesis throughout this.
I can believe that. Again, I want to reiterate, I don't want to cast down Murnau's name. Murnau is not a Nazi, but whether he intended to or not, it could be seen that his messaging, at least, can be interpreted to support the coming political agenda of Hitler.
But you mentioned that scene where Murnau is all drugged up, and there is a lot of drug use going on. There's this kind of out of the blue scene where Greta gets high on morphine and starts to freak out in her bed, and Udo Kier has to come in and kind of calm her down, and Cary Elwes just locks the door so people don't see her flopping around topless on the bed.
Is she a heroin user already, or do they supply her?
I thought they shot her up to calm her down for this scene.
Yeah. Well, for the end scene, they definitely, against her will, shoot her up. But I'm wondering, did she have the habit before, or is this some kind of insidious vampiric thing that Murnau did to her.
I thought that she was just a user on her own, and that's why this scene happened, which is kind of weird because they're going to forcefully shoot her up later against her will, and so having it here where she seems to be doing it on her own, I didn't think Shrek had anything to do with this, but then again, Shrek tries her door after that. He tries every door after that.
Yeah, he's roaming around the hall.
Yeah, he's using scent. I think he's smelling his way to her.
And then some guy just wanders through the hall, and Shrek's like, oh, I'll eat him. He's gonna do. He's here.
I think that was the screenwriter. He wanted the screenwriter, and that's always a joke they always make about behind the scenes. The screenwriter is always expendable, and it's so true, at least in Hollywood. But yeah, we essentially build up to the idea. They show us the famous scenes of the stand-up and how it was done. I always wondered, but there was a platform that, famously he kind of just comes upright from his casket. They show the behind the scenes of that. They show all the ship traveling moments, and we're building up the filming on that island. What's going to happen once Vampire gets his big close-up with Ellen, Greta.
And at this point, because he was high, Murnau confided to Udo Kier and to Cary Elwes the whole story. And this is where we found out that Shrek was going to get Greta. And so they're filming the scene, and it's just the three of them there. It's just the cameraman, the producer, and the director, along with Shrek and Greta. And they're trying to figure out a way to stop this from happening.
Again, I think you're right to think that the plan was to use the sunlight, but the question to ask is, was anyone going to save Greta? The fact that they shot her up for this scene, and the fact that she's been kind of hard to deal with, she didn't have many allies on there. Maybe Cary Elwes liked her, but I feel like she was expendable.
You could write off they shot her up because she did notice that Shrek didn't have a reflection in the mirror, and that kind of freaked her out, and that's when they shoot her up. So maybe the plan wasn't to shoot her up, but they gotta get that scene no matter what.
Yes. This is the thrust of artistic desire, creation. And if anyone has ever tried to make anything and felt passion about it, didn't feel like what they were making was crap, but actually believed it was important, you can get in these states. I definitely remember making bad choices on film shoots, seeing bad choices on film shoots being made, crimes being committed. I can say that now. It's past prosecutable.
Statute of limitations.
Yes. I think I could own that I have been a criminal, and filmmakers are criminals. So I think there's something very true about, even though it's kind of disgusting, that Murnau is doing this to her. And maybe you can tell yourself, maybe Murnau is telling himself, I can save her in the end. I just got to get this from a couple of different angles.
But I love how Malkovich just loses it during this final scene. Like, full-on madness takes him as everyone else is getting taken out. And if it's not in the frame, it's not real. Again, a real clear thesis for what the actual director of this movie is going for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess that's a line that was actually said by Hitchcock that he used before and he would pass on to others. And yeah, the Elwes and Udo Kier, Shrek kills them both right here, and Shrek looks like he's going for Murnau, and Murnau is just filming and like, can you get back on your mark? This shot isn't working for me.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the line, if it's not in frame, it doesn't exist, is basically saying the only thing that matters is the art, right? It's the ultimate way of saying the only thing that, like, you as a human being, your lives, your stories, none of that matters. It is only the thing that I am willing to being as the director. It's incredibly pompous. And again, it would be easy for me to imagine many people hating Malkovich, but I feel like I understand him. I don't hate him for this. I understand that he's a monster, but I know what that drive is.
I agree. Like, I've been there. I've been in a band where, like, you do ruthless things because you think you're going to make it, and this is our art, and this is going to be the greatest thing ever. We're going to save the world with this.
Nothing else matters but what we are creating. And I think that can feel true. Or maybe they're making a gendered statement. Maybe that's how men see creation, because we can't naturally create with our bodies. Again, back to the vagina thing. But they're willing to kill the woman, the creator, in order to create. And she is dead, right? I mean, they're writing this like there will be no more German theater for her.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he lets Shrek feed on her long enough that she's dead and he's filming the whole time. But is she supposed to stab him with the steak? He's giving her orders, like, can you bring the steak up? But it looks like she's dead. It looks like she can't take those orders.
Well, in the movie, she doesn't do it that way. I mean, he is vanquished by the light. And I think that's the metaphor they've been reaching for. So she's not capable of it, and I'm not thinking it's going to happen.
Yeah, you had this scene earlier on where Shrek found the footage, and just this beautiful scene where he's watching like the sunrise through the scope of the camera, and it's like projecting onto his face, and it's beautiful. And I love this moment here. Like we were told early on, like what inspires him, seeing the sun again, that light. And when that door finally does open and he's directed, turn towards the light, like face the sun, and he does it. Like it's what he wants. It's what the actor's got to do to give that performance, to make this great piece of art. Like it's a moment of death, but it's also a beautiful moment to me, like this climax of this film.
Oh, I agree. It's a great looking shot. I like the end. I wish it was less happenstance. It feels like the crew just happens to come along and open that door. I wish it was more plotted and more Machiavellian by Murnau, that he was sacrificing everyone, sacrificing Greta, sacrificing Shrek. But it just seemed like lucky timing that he was filming right when they opened the door and Shrek disappeared.
Oh, I thought that was intentional. I read it as such anyway. I thought that he had planned that. And that, again, that was how he directed, right? I dictate how everything happens. I made sure that even you, my star that claims that it's your picture now, get put in your place.
But Murnau is gone. He's just like, can somebody pick up the clapboard now? And
I love it.
Just, I think, snapped, and it's all about the film, and any part of humanity is gone from him.
Yeah, I think this is where it stops. Like, you could say this is a comedy to some degree, but I think there is a poignancy to the idea that everyone else is just appalled and yet enabling. We recognize we have made something great. Was it worth it? This is always the question about art and artists. How much do we tolerate? How much of a monster can you be and still be called a great artist?
Well, on that philosophical question, Jacob, Stewart, do you recommend Shadow of the Vampire? Jacob.
Yeah, Stuart, you're really tapping into my final thoughts, because there is this genre of, movies about movies, or movies about art about art. And I gravitate towards those because I have those conversations a lot with myself and with my friends, like not just like what makes great art, but like the ethics of art. Can you separate the art from the artist? And that feels like it's just on a different level of morality, where you're ignoring a lot of awful things that happen, but they're not in the frame. So maybe they don't matter. And so I tend to like those self-reflective ones that call into question the goodness or the necessity of art. I think about Blowout. I think if you've seen The Train, which is a World War II movie about trying to save all the precious art from a Nazi train, and it's got a real whopper of an ending, but like just calling in what is art worth. And so watching this film, like, one, I'm sold because I love Nosferatu. And then it's this great conversation where I thought originally it was going to kind of be a hammy comedy satire type thing, but it's so much more deeper if you're willing to like just really give this film what it's doing. And I think that's easy because the performances are so great. Of course, Willem Dafoe is going to get so much praise being under that makeup, and that performance as Max Schreck, but Malkovich kind of steals it for me by the end of this. Just his manic desire, I could tap into that as someone who is trying to create art. And like, this is a movie I just feel like, because yeah, is it good at the end? Like all the crimes you may have committed, I don't know. Like those, I think that's a really important conversation. I think this film takes a really funny premise of like, what if this vampire from this famous movie was really a vampire, and uses that premise to ask some deep questions about film and art and creation, destruction, all of that. This director seems very pretentious, and that's okay. Like, it comes through and he made a really good film. Like, a strong recommend for Shadow of the Vampire.
Stewart.
Yeah, I think that's key. Pretension. Do you have pretensions? Do you believe art has a power greater than its entertainment value? I think that'll be a big determinant about whether you just see this as sort of an overlong Saturday Night Live sketch, or whether you actually find that it's asking provoking questions and challenging and can be seen as drama. There were a lot of films that have been made about filmmaking, particularly in that time period I mentioned. I think that this one is one of the more clever, and it really does so by distilling the artistry of film directing down to this act of bringing darkness to light and how much darkness you must commit in order to see it. Yeah, two visions of monsters. I want to emphasize this. Obviously, Dafoe is the easy one to celebrate. He is so wonderful in this movie. I can't imagine anyone else bringing the pathos that he does. But I think you're right, Jacob. Malkovich is sort of the unsung hero because it really is his story that is being told. He is the one that is risking it all to create his film masterpiece. And yeah, watching these two war against one another can be hilarious, tragic, and yeah, just really gripping. I really liked watching two great actors bait each other in this way. But will people love this movie? I realize I am a film nerd. I care about films. I've been on film sets. So there is a personal connection that may not be replicated by all viewers. I think certainly if you came here for vampires and horror,
not recommend.
Yeah, it's definitely not scary. Will you find it says something about what you like about vampires? I think it's antithetical. Again, look at Dafoe. He's so tragic. He's so unsexy. He's so un-Dracula that I think it's actually kind of humbling to see a vampire so lowly. You actually feel like it's mercy killing that he gets to have one final moment in front of the camera before he's wiped away. Yeah, if you want a comedy, I don't know. Probably fitfully funny, but probably overstays its welcome even at 90 minutes. So I think you really do have to love art, the creation of art, and really care about the way things are made in order to, I think, appreciate the satire that is being sold here. It's an entertaining movie, undeniably two great performances, very solid recommend from me.
Well, 3 for 3, and I'll echo some things that both of you said in your summations. I'll kind of disagree with what you say, Stuart. I think that even if you're not a overdosed film nerd, I think there's still a lot of enjoyment to be had here. There's a lot of satire just based on human nature and obsessiveness, you know? I don't know this director from any other work but this, but I almost feel like this could be the work of a Darren Aronofsky. You know, this is a 1920s film version of Black Swan, you know, where you've got the two people going against each other and just the obsessive drive, the film at the expense of all else. I don't think you need to have had your unique experience in order to appreciate a lot of what this film has to offer. But yeah, I give this a solid recommend. This film, this is my third time watching it. I watched it back when we did the Nosferatu series just to refresh myself on it. And I watched it back when it was new. And this film engrosses me every time. I feel transported to a fictionalized 1921 setting and kept there by great performances. And yeah, like you guys said, Dafoe has the showy role as Shrek, and he rightly got the kudos for it. The scene where he discusses being a vampire and how he got turned is just captivating. But Malkovich is every bit as good. His obsessive, amoral film director is an acting showcase for the ages. I think it's undersung. He has the character arc for us to follow, where he goes into that descent of madness, but he does have that moment of doubt where he gets stoned and seems to regret the choices he's made. And we follow his journey, and he alone has all the information that's dribbled out through the film. We don't know until he tells us that Shrek is a vampire. We don't know that until he tells us that Greta is the payment for the acting. And those two displays of talent would be enough to get a recommend. But then the film has so much more going for it. I feel like it's quietly funny and dramatic. I love the way the 1920s film technology is shown. I love the detail of every time they start filming, Murnau says iris in, and the picture changes. It comes in from the sides and becomes more of a circular image like old black and white films were, and it fades from color into black and white. I mean, the art direction, the sets, everything here gives complete verisimilitude to the picture. I have no complaints about this movie other than it's just not remembered well enough. I feel like this movie's completely forgotten. It got a DVD release when it was new, and
that's it.
Yeah, I don't see it on streaming. I don't see people bring it up in conversations. I think this should be brought back to life, especially with the new Nosferatu remake coming up, especially with Dafoe being in both of them. Shadow of the Vampire should be given the spotlight and the love it deserves.
And maybe it will be. Again, maybe we're helping bring this to light for people that weren't around when this movie had whatever buzz it had 24 years ago.
And we will be talking more Nosferatu early in the new year. It comes out on Christmas Day, this remake of Nosferatu. Hopefully Bill Skarsgård's best picture of the year.
Shouldn't be hard.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident about that.
As for us, it's going to be a little while before we get to that remake. Next week, we're going back to Stephen King. No, not vampires. Salem's Lot, not out yet. We're doing Hearts in Atlantis.
Is this a rom-com?
You know, all I've seen is the cover. All I know about it is it's got Anthony Hopkins holding his hand up to like some glass as if he's doing that Spock, I have been, it always will be your friend kind of scene.
Okay, an old people rom-com?
I've seen this cover a million times. I know nothing about it. I haven't read the book. I haven't seen this movie. I've never had any desire to see this movie. So this will be a new experience for me. By the time we get to it next week, I will have both read the short story collection that this comes from and seen the movie, of course.
Yeah, it feels like it was one of those in the aftermath of Shawshank that tried to rebrand Stephen King, not as a horror guy, but as a dramatic writer.
Oh, it's going to be an inspirational movie.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of heart.
In Atlantis.
And I think it's going to wind up in Atlantis, but not literally. I don't think we go to any supernatural realms. I think it's going to stay supernatural free, but I don't know much. I thought it was about Vietnam. I thought that book was, at least. So maybe it's set in the 60s. Maybe it'll have some kind of anti-war message. Hard to say.
Well, we will learn it all before we podcast next week. We will be far more certain about what that movie is. And for this Friday, if you are a patron on Patreon, Podbean, Apple, or Spotify of $10 or more, you are going to get to hear our review of this weekend's #1 film. I can't say it 3 times or else something bad happens, but I can say Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
It's only twice in the title. They'll get us with that third one.
More Willem Dafoe. He's in that one too.
Guys everywhere this year. Poor Things.
Mm-hmm.
And under heavy latex in like all of it.
Or is he really a vampire? I'm still saying. Could be a goblin. Definitely could be a goblin.
So, thank you for listening. I really hope you can join us on Friday. It's your support that allows us to keep doing these shows week after week, and I'm really looking forward to our discussion on the Beetlejuice sequel. So, hope you can join us for that Friday. Jacob Stewart, thank you for joining me, and until next time, travel quickly, travel well into the land of the specters.
Time is an abyss, profound as 1,000 nights. Centuries come and go. To be unable to grow old is terrible. Death is not the worst. There are things more horrible than death. Can you imagine enduring centuries, experiencing each day the same futile things?
Thank you for listening to this Now Playing Podcast movie review. We hope you enjoyed the show.
They will no longer be able to say you would had to have been there. Because the fact is, Albin, we were.
Help us spread the word about this show by leaving a 5-star review on Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes, or your podcast store of choice.
I have a task for you. Something I don't dare trust to anyone else.
Want more reviews like this one? In the archives section of NowPlayingPodcast.com, you'll find more than 1,000 in-depth movie reviews from our panel of hosts.
How long have you been listening?
On our site, you can hear reviews for every installment in the world's biggest film franchises, including the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Star Wars, Spider-Man, Batman, X-Men, James Bond, Middle-earth, Jurassic Park, Fast and Furious, and Transformers.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
Plus, we have individual movie reviews, such as Titanic, E.T., Inception, Big Hero 6, Ready Player One, Pulp Fiction, Apocalypse Now, Dr. Strangelove, and hundreds more.
A wonderful place. A little gloomy, but very exciting.
And come back to NowPlayingPodcast.com next Tuesday for another all-new movie review podcast.
Listen, the children of the night make their music.
Support from listeners like you keeps Now Playing Podcast on the air.
You must come with me and help me to crush this monster.
You can donate directly by tapping the support button at NowPlayingPodcast.com.
Such is the price of genius.
And you can join our crowdfunding campaign for early access to new episodes, exclusive reviews, and bonus reviews.
I'm willing to pay you double the price.
Now Playing Podcast is produced by Arnie Carvalho.
The monster is here!
Associate produced by Jason Latham.
What does the master command?
Now Playing is edited by Heath, Santiago, and Arnie.
I mean, I'm suffering for my art, Albin, believe me.
Now Playing credits read by Brock.
I have to say this, even if you think it's foolish.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual hosts and may not reflect the views of Venganza Media Incorporated.
Even the unthinkable will not deter me.
Venganza Media Incorporated is not affiliated with, and this podcast has not been prepared, approved, or licensed by any entity that created the film analyzed herein. All movie clips and music included in this podcast are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders. They are included here for the purpose of review, and no infringement is intended.
I see something horrible. I'm afraid.
Now Playing Podcast is an exclusive trademark of and may not be used without the express written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated.
Thank you. I think we have it.
Now Playing is a Venganza Media production, copyright 2024, and no part of this show may be reproduced, repurposed, or redistributed without the written permission of Venganza Media Incorporated. All rights reserved.
And end. Excellent, Gustav. Extraordinary discipline in the face of ridicule.
Not every film needs to be 2 hours. Looking at you, Smile 2. 90 minutes is often a perfectly good runtime to get in what you need to get in.
What's going on in Smile 2?
I guess it's 2 hours.
It's like 132 minutes.
Oh.
That is too long for Smile, Phil.
Well, wasn't Terrifier 4?
Terrifier 2 is like, yeah, and it's like 2.5, 3 hours long for no reason.
Okay, well, to be covered another time.